Virginia will take over when we need to, and we'll call the meeting to order. Let's start off, Jim, in the room with attendance.
Dave, we need to interrupt you because we still only have 6 CORC members on tap.
Oh, okay.
Tom Berger just signed in.
Did he?
Yeah. Doesn't that make 7?
Would make 7. All right, very good. Sorry, Dave, you're on, buddy.
Okay. Now we will call the meeting to order.
Yeah.
Somebody's got feedback.
That was
Okay.
Leah.
Okay. All right, let's start with attendance. If somebody in the room will go around the room for us.
All right, starting over there in that corner with Jacob.
Jacob Katz, Pirtle Construction.
John Levinson, Rel Enterprises, representing Ziskovich Architects and Wharton Smith.
Holly Hahn, Office of the General Counsel.
Tom Hogarth, Building Code Services.
David Dolan, Facilities Management.
Denise Santiago, Garrett's Construction.
Bob Lift, Office of Inspector General.
Jim Auld, Wharton Smith.
Lou Dr. CORC.
And last at our CORC.
Jim Kennard, Facilities Construction.
Dorothy Banachewski, Facilities Construction.
Leah Gaines, CORC.
It's all you, Dave.
Tom Berger.
Okay, David Porter.
Tom Berger is here on CORC as well. And Virginia is online.
And John Kesher.
Okay.
And John Kesher is online.
And Leah Gaines.
Yeah.
Okay, we done with attendance?
I think so, yes.
Is that a yes? Done with attendance? Okay.
Yes.
Anyone with conflict of interest on anything today? I'm not hearing any.
We have
Lou,
Michael
you did our
Gelfand.
CORC report. Can you do another one?
Michael Gelfand is joining us as well.
Okay. Lou, can you do another CORC report for us?
Yes, I have some things to say about the last CORC report.
Good.
One of the items on the CORC report was pulled by the school board for off consent for discussion, and that was FC6. School board member Brill pulled it. She wanted to talk about the fact that the procedures that normally should have been used were not followed in this case. And she thought that was not only wrong, but it should not be repeated again. So she objected to the fact that there wasn't prior approval or CORC notification in advance of what was being done. This is obviously the wall at Addison Mizell. Then Dr. Robinson also joined in the conversation. Her point was that this project lacked equity among the activities of the school board, and that's something that they never want to see happen again. You can't do something in one location and not do it in others, and she has specific examples where a proposal for a wall was rejected, so there was no justification in her mind for approving it in this place. She admonished the facilities organization not to do that, that she wants to enforce equity, and all schools in all locations should be treated the same way. They then went on to vote, and I think the final vote, as I remember, was 6-1 approving it. That's it for the CORC report. And yes, I can do next month's report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, staff updates looks like.
Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Dave, I would like to add an item to the agenda under new discussion items. I want to give a policy update, so if I can please add that to the agenda, I'd appreciate it.
Does anybody have any objections to that? Okay, hearing none, that can be added to the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you, and also happy holidays to everyone.
Yes.
And best wishes.
And best
To you.
wishes.
Okay, and from my side, mine's a very short one this month. I know it's hard to imagine me
Christmas present?
not being, yeah, it's the Christmas present, right? Nothing more than, as Jim said, happy holidays to everyone. Happy New Year, because we, of course, won't see you all till 2022. So everybody, please be safe. Have a great holiday. We will be busy over the construction, over the Christmas break, over the winter break, with a number of facility renewal projects. as well. Even Jim has a lot of, Jim and Dorothy have a lot of minor projects. The Central Transportation Fuel Dispenser Replacement, the IBIS Modular Classroom project, and SITV dividing some rooms, turning points, exterior stair structural repairs. So we will be quite busy with contractors over the winter break, but it's best time to get the stuff done when no one's around. So we look forward to being showing additional progress. And I think that is it, right, Jim?
I think so.
So back to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff by anybody?
Well, just one comment.
Okay, let's get down to.
I'm sure everybody probably knows.
Excuse me?
but-
1 second, Dave.
I'm sure everyone probably knows, but there was a school board election at the last meeting. And they reelected our chair for another term. His name slips my.
Well, they allowed,
Huh?
they allowed for the waivers so that the chair could be reelected if CORC so desires at the end of
No,
January.
no, that's not what I'm talking about. The school board itself reelected the chair, Frank Barbieri, for another term. And then Karen Bill was
Oh,
elected
okay.
for vice chair at the last meeting.
And yes, you are right, Mr. Porter. We did have the item on for the waiver, and that passed on consent.
Consent.
Okay, we ready for consent?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jim, I think you're in the room.
Yes.
Okay,
You
I think
ready?
it would probably be better if you announce the consent items and make a log of who wants to pull what, since I'm not there to see hands raised.
That's it. Dorothy will lead the charge going down the line. And if you're online and you want the item pulled, make sure we see your video or give some sort of sign.
Can they raise their hand?
Yeah. Raise your hands.
Google Meet.
FC1,
I would like that pulled.
Okay, Michael?
Michael, okay. FC2,
Yes, I would like to pull that, Lou Doctor.
FC3,
Is that FC3?
Yes.
Sorry, my connection's cutting in and out, so I'd like
FC3.
FC3 pulled, David Holder.
okay, FC4. No one?
No one.
PC1. No one? PC2. No one? PC3. No one. PC4. And no one.
Make a motion.
I move that the items on consent agenda go forward without objection.
We have a second here.
Second by
Ken.
Ken.
Ken Lassiter. Okay, do we want to do the go around, make sure we get everybody's vote?
Yeah, I think it's, that's my recommendation.
Dorothy, can you do that? Can you go down the list of people and say, Mr. Gelfand, how do you vote? Ms. Ferris?
Aye.
Mr. Berger,
Aye.
Mr. Cheshire,
Aye.
Mr. Doctor,
Aye.
Ms. Farris,
Aye.
Ms. Gaines,
Aye.
Mr. Gelfand,
Aye.
Mr. Guida,
Aye.
Mr. Lassiter,
Aye.
Mr. Porter, Mr. Porter, we'll assume that's an aye.
Aye.
There we go, I got it. Sam?
Aye.
Mr. Simon is not present. Motion passes.
Okay, we'll bring up our first one. Mr. Gelfand asked for FC1 to be pulled.
Yes, thank you very much. For item number 1 on FC1, Lakeworth Middle School, the description included a new security building. Are we putting up security buildings in middle schools now? Is that part of what we're doing?
The security building was part of a single point of entry project. There were 10 schools that got, and I'm going to call it like a Sally port. Do y'all know the Sally port concept? You have to walk into a space, the door locks behind you before the door in front of you opens. As part of the security enhancements, we had 10 schools that had this Sally port installed near the front entrance of the school. This allows so that parents that come to pick up students don't have to venture all the way into the school unattended or with an escort. They can come to the front, this front secure area, and then the main office can call for the student to come. So we created these security rooms or security spaces as part of our single point of entry project previously.
And about how large are these rooms or buildings?
They vary. It depends on the school. Some are classrooms, some are smaller rooms. They're no bigger than a classroom.
Is this now going to be part of the specifications for middle schools?
These are features that were added to schools that had a circumstance. For many of you know that there are certain schools that designs where the main office is well inside of the campus. All new schools, the main office is being developed, designed near the front entrance, like right near the front, so that when you're coming from the parking lot, the first area you hit is the main office area. There are schools in existence where the main office is further into the campus. And these are circumstances that we are recommending.
And will this be part of the specs for renovations at other schools, other than middle schools, elementary and high schools, where they have the offices away from the entry?
We get with school police because right now we did our first 10, and I don't know if they are looking into if there are other schools. I know that we've done the 10 that we did these predominantly happened at middle schools and high schools. I don't know of any elementary schools that have that format, but we're following the design direction from the school police in their assessment of security approach.
One of the things that I would be suggesting is that because this is an entirely new concept and we don't have a traditional method of evaluating, such as, when we put in LED lights, we could look at a cost savings, that the district look at these buildings or these rooms to confirm that they are actually doing what they're supposed to do, and that that's being done in a cost-effective manner. And second, that if they are going to be utilized, that they be part of the request for bid at the beginning or proposal, so that we don't have change orders after the fact. I know this is just for a small part of that, but as you know, I've been somewhat concerned about changes after the fact by the police department.
Well, okay. I'm not sure I follow exactly what the asks are here.
I think what he's suggesting, Dave, is that in future projects, the Sally ports be included in the original scope.
So there's two asks. One, if I may, there are two asks. One is that the effectiveness of these be evaluated to confirm that they are actually meeting the goals that are stated and that it's being done in an efficient manner.
Well, again, I don't want to go back to the concept of school police. They do evaluate the safety and security of the facilities. This isn't a construction operation. It's not that I get to decide or Joe Sanchez or Dorothy or anybody decides this school gets it or not. We work based on the evaluations that are done by school police. So like our purview here, we build those things at the direction of them. And I do understand CORC's concern, we do follow the design requests from school police.
This,
If we have no say in this at all, I will get this amended and removed from the agenda. You know, we've been through this before. To the extent that we are being asked to approve something, then we should have something other than just purely rubber stamping it. We have seen numerous issues under the purview of security. And I'm asking again for what should be automatically undertaken. And that is, we have a new concept, and that concept be evaluated to ensure that it is efficiently meeting the goals for it. And second, that if it is, then that be part of the specifications up front, so we don't have changes coming through down the line.
I will take your recommendation back to senior leadership and ask them to work with school police on it.
To the extent that senior leadership doesn't, I would ask the IG's office to start to take a look at these things.
all right, can I interrupt for a second now?
Mr. Berger?
Yes, Max Schachter, whose son was killed in Parkland, is one of the biggest advocates of the Sally ports. I've talked to him about these before. He is in Parkland, so obviously he is somebody that we could reach out to. I think he can satisfy part of what Michael's concern is what is the value of the Sally ports and do they work? They are something, and where he picked up on it, I believe, is in Israel. That's exactly how they handle schools in Israel because of all their various concerns with terrorism. And so I think he may be somebody that you don't have to go to the police and have them explain their theories and mechanisms, but Max would be happy, I am certain, to explain to Palm Beach County Construction Oversight Review Committee on why these things are beneficial.
So Tom, I appreciate that idea and the concept. I'm familiar with them, especially from traveling to Israel. And I believe that in many circumstances, they make sense. With the unique circumstances of a school type environment, particularly with children and their parents, I'm asking that it be evaluated. Because the next time this comes through, I'm going to ask, just like any other new substantial project, which we should be doing, does this work? Not just that the concept
And
in the
the answer
abstract.
and the answer that Max is going to tell us is it does. And in Israel, we use it at the schools. And that's where the concept is coming from. But I think that those specific questions would be better asked, honestly, of Max than it would be of school police because he studied it.
Okay. As I said, I appreciate your recommendation, and we will certainly bring it forward.
This is David.
Second item.
Yeah, Michael, my position is, I guess, that even if something is needed and it's out of our purview and it's out of the purview of even staff, like the police saying we need something, if we don't like the cost of something or that we're being left out of the loop, then we have Lou put that in our report to the board, just so that the board understands that we're not reviewing things like that and that school police has carte blanche when they want something done. And if the school board wants there to be more scrutiny and more advanced presentation of security issues, they can make it happen.
Can I ask a question of both of you? This is associated with a change order. Is there a discrepancy in the change order or a concern in the change order? Or is this more a separate new business type of item that you'd like to have so that we can stay on task of FC1 change orders?
I didn't have an objection.
I'm not prepared to object to it at this point. I'm looking at the underlying purpose of it, taking it one level above. And I agree with David's comments. You know, we've approached that on other type of what seem to be purely educational issues. If we're not being asked to delve into it, then we shouldn't be evaluating it, and the board needs to make a decision.
Understood.
Yeah, Michael, I look at it like, let's say IT. If the IT department had the board's ear and wanted to come through and rewire every one of the schools, and that had a construction dollar to it, if that's what the board wants IT to do, then we're there just to evaluate whether we think the cost is valid or not to decide whether we think the element is valid or not. That's for the board to give us their direction.
That's,
I move this item go forward without objection, and that Lou will handle a recommendation in his board report.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Sam is the second. Dorothy, do you want to go down the list of
you don't.
votes?
I got it. Ready?
Okay, Jim?
Mr. Berger?
Aye.
Mr. Cheshire?
Aye.
Mr. Doctor?
Aye.
Virginia?
Aye.
Leah?
Aye.
Michael?
Yeah,
Mr. Guida?
Aye.
Mr. Lassiter?
Aye.
Mr. McCoy?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Motion passes 9-0.
I just curious, you said you did 10. Was that the need or is that what you had money available?
That was the need that school police indicated to
Okay,
us.
so if they had come forward and said, we need.
At 25, we would have been doing 25.
That's all I wanted to know. 10 something convenient.
Right, no, that was just happened to be the. Okay, next one, Dorothy?
Okay, next one is FC2, and that was pulled by Lou.
Doctor?
Yes, this is the Jupiter High School. They call it the agricultural program. When they expanded the school with portables, they ripped down the old greenhouse, and this is the building of the replacement greenhouse. It's obviously significantly bigger because it's an opportunity to design something as a full-service, student-oriented greenhouse. In doing the design, the original design was rejected, and they have to go back and redo it because they decided the hurricane load requirement was higher than what was used for the original design. So we're paying extra money to redesign it, to strengthen it. What I want to know is, why didn't we get the approval of the insight from the building department as to what was required for a greenhouse? This vertical greenhouse is a pretty big function, and on the hurricane load, I'm not worried about the auxiliary buildings blowing down and hitting this thing. I'm worrying about it withstanding the hurricane load. That should have been done up front rather than have to pay to redesign it because it was only designed for a lesser wind load. So why did we bypass the building department and
It's
not?
not a wind load issue.
Sure it is, 105 versus 177 degree.
But that is authorized everywhere else, but in this particular instance, as a risk category 1.
And why is it risk category 1 here and nowhere else?
Well, that's where I know you had asked about whether the consultant, this was a structural recommendation, a specification, a design specification, not an actual design. So the designer based it on what they believed it to be. It should be a risk category 1, and as it is everywhere else. Upon review from the building department, now keeping in mind that it doesn't mean that the engineer was wrong, because everywhere else it's normally a category 1. In this particular case, in a school environment, being in close proximity to other buildings, the building officials with much more insight and experience at this type of code evaluation and the circumstances here made that clarification that it really needed to be a risk category 2, which is a higher wind. So it's a matter of interpretation of that building official, and whether or not it's accurate. It's not something that necessarily happens automatically in the beginning of the project. When the submittals were made to the building department, that's when they commented on it and made it clear that it needed to be a category 2.
After it was designed as a lower
But
category.
it wasn't designed. It was just a specification. It was
And-
just a design spec.
And we're paying for the redesign.
No.
No.
And why is there money added for this?
we're paying for an upcharge in the actual structural enhancements to, a category one didn't need all the corner enhancements, the structural enhancements.
It didn't need all the bracing that the new design adds.
Right.
So basically,
That next category.
redesign of the original structure.
It's not a redesign because it's, again, it's a specification.
Then what's the $40,000 for?
The cost of actually implementing the additional secure,
You know, that redesign adds double features, it adds braces at all the corners, it adds nuts and bolts and resizing screws. To me, that's a major redesign of the structure.
well, we're not paying for, you seem to be going to the cost of the redesign. There is no cost to the redesign. This is an actual change for the $34,000 covers the actual structural enhancements to bring it to a category two. Am I missing?
Yeah, from the original design, which was a category one.
Wasn't a design, it was a design specification.
Had 100% documentations that was submitted to the building department, and they rejected it.
As a category one, right.
Yes.
And they went to GMP with it being design specifications of category one. The building officials commented on it that it needed to be category two. That's what this is. It's a simple change from a category one to a category two. There's no malfeasance. The designer, as I said, the designer who put the specification together did so based on the fact that it should be, under normal circumstances, a category one, a risk category one.
I must be missing something then. Because the justification to go to category two was to prevent auxiliary damage from other buildings in the area and to strengthen it for potential hurricane load.
Our reasoning is the building official, is an agency request to upgrade to category two. Timeliness, I think somewhere in our response, there was a timeliness issue of going to GMP. I think we went, Dorothy, please help me out on the dates, sometime in May?
Using the 100% construction documents. 100% construction documents indicated a risk category one. When they were reviewed, the building department noted that they needed to be risk category two. So the greenhouse was not designed, but the greenhouse supplier provided a quote for the greenhouse based on the 100% documents. So that was the price, that was the cost of the greenhouse if it were a risk one structure. After we went to GMP, because we were pushing to get this to the board, then the structural drawings were revised to indicate that it needed to be risk category two. So nothing was designed, nothing was built, but the difference in the timing from when it was bid to the time that we actually upgraded it to the risk two. This is the difference in the materials and the construction costs.
There was a timing issue on this as well.
And I'm saying they should have talked to the right people in the beginning rather than having the building department reject it and go back and change the design.
I have a question. The designers have the design criteria by the school board to go do their designs. So in the school board design criteria for greenhouses, does it call for a type category one or two for the design criteria?
I can bring up Mr. Hogarth.
We don't do a lot of greenhouses.
Yeah.
And so the building code calls for agricultural buildings to be category one. And so the greenhouse supplier and the designers assumed it was going to be a category one. Our educational buildings are required to be category three. We settled with a category two, which is most typical buildings that are non-essential. That's your houses, office buildings. Most buildings are category two. Reason being is we didn't want the structure to fail in the residential neighborhood. This is not an agricultural use, this is an educational use. And so we brought that up during plan review comments. Unfortunately, the GMP was issued prior to the permit being issued and this issue being resolved.
So the answer is there is nothing in the design criteria for greenhouse buildings in the school board.
No, it's one of those one-offs that you like.
I don't know of another greenhouse.
I don't know if Pahokee might have a greenhouse. I'm not sure.
I
I
think
know
we
they have
haven't had
ag market, but,
They had one at one time. I don't know if it's still there or not.
okay.
So I could just make a recommendation that moving forward, that the school board put something in writing in the design criteria for greenhouses. Moving forward to learn from this experience and have a risk assessment in that to evaluate, are we close to other buildings or not? And what would constitute a type 1 or a type 2 building?
I think that would be, I think it would be good. It would be a good practice to include in our district master specs that we do an evaluation.
And create a design criteria for that.
Okay.
May I comment on that also? This is Leah. Maybe we should also look at other typically educational auxiliary buildings for those kinds of reviews too. I know this is one of them. I don't know if there may be others.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, point well taken. And yeah, I would agree we could integrate the two into non-traditional educational facilities, ancillary facilities, that we evaluate them in the future.
Need a motion to move forward?
So move.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Michael?
Jim, you want to poll? Is that the way you're doing it?
Yes, yes.
Sir.
Fine.
Mr. Berger?
Aye.
Mr. Cheshire?
Aye.
Mr. Doctor?
Aye.
Ms. Farris?
Aye.
Ms. Gaines?
Aye.
Mr. Gelfand?
Aye.
Mr. Guida?
Aye.
Mr. Lassiter?
Aye.
Mr. McCoy?
Aye.
Mr. Porter?
Yeah, aye.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
And passes 11-0.
Next one, FC3.
FC3, Grove Park Elementary School was pulled by Dave Porter.
Yeah, questions I've got on this. I guess first question, how do we get all the way through the CDs with the CMB part of the team to realize that structural costs was going to be so much higher with steel? So I guess I don't understand that, since that's our process. My second question, I'll get them both out at the same time. How do we know that there'll be a $900,000 savings if the redesign with concrete hasn't been done to price out yet? That's my questions.
Okay, and I'm going to ask, I think Glenn Armbruster, is Glenn online? Glenn, can you?
Yes, I am.
Glenn, would you care to respond to either or both of those?
Yes.
Especially with the timing.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Porter, we actually did this. It's actually, you're going to see it again for the PP school, the middle school. That is where we originally saw it when they came in with their 100% estimate. And we went to a redesign there. So at the same time, we were at Grove Park doing it, and I had the contractor, Thornton, do an estimate on what the savings would be if we went from steel to concrete. And I'm not sure why it says 900, but it should be only it's around the $600,000 mark for Grove Park. It's about 900 for the PP site. And that's on estimates that they put out and looking at the forecasted availability of the steel. So that's why we actually we were at the point of, towards the end of the project, but, of the design. But that's why we did the redesign now, in order to capture the savings. I mean, we are already on both those sites and one other one. We're way over budget because of the, market right now. I was just trying to do our due diligence and get stuff done ahead of time, on this project and along with Aaron Howard on, the middle school project.
Okay, that answers those questions I had. Somebody wants to make a motion to move forward? I didn't have anything else.
We have another question, hang on.
But, I mean, do we have other ones in the process that are gonna use the steel?
We are.
We need to change?
Well, and what Mr. Armbruster just referred to is, everybody knows, and I got some of the contractors sitting in the room that are all shaking their head. We all know that we're coming upon this. So yes, the other projects that are in design,
Yeah.
like right now, 17 PP and Grove Park and Malaluka are all projects that are coming forward with a GMP in coming months, in the next few months. They're already well into that curve of trying to figure out, should we go with steel? Should we stay with steel or should we go with concrete? The next level projects, the ones that are coming next year, are also evaluating based on the current market, but knowing that by next year, we might have a shift. So we're, I don't want to say that this is the fun part of the job, is trying to take a guess what it's going to be like a year from now. But yes, we are on all projects, all major construction projects,
Doing that research.
doing that evaluation in the hopes that we're planning accordingly. Because what Glenn's referring to is, if we had done this at the DD stage or at the schematic stage, we might have had a different answer than we're looking at right now. Because a year ago, pricing was different. Steel was probably the better choice. But where we are now, it seems like concrete, the evaluation to go with concrete seems to be the better choice. That's not to say that next year, this time, we're not back to steel. So we are constantly evaluating that on all the projects.
With all the supply chain issues, do we know we might run into issues with either concrete or steel? And how do you figure that in?
That's why we have a lot of these great CM contractors that work with us. And I reach out to them, not just on the individual project, but I know they have some of the contractors that are even in this room right now have a much broader, their corporation has a much broader reach to be able to determine, not just going to, NDR and trying to find out what the next trends look like. They're actually seeing the information on the ground, and they're the ones who are giving us that feedback, both on the projects and for me, on a global scale. I'm trying to understand. I talk to Jacob at Pirtle here quite frequently because we're working on Triple O High School, and every dollar at every moment counts. Like we're realizing now we have to buy things sooner than we would have preferred to and have to store them just because we can't afford to take the risk of what it might be in 3 months from now if we don't buy it.
Thank you.
Has his hand raised?
Yes, sir. Michael? Mr. Gelfand?
Is there a longer-term maintenance or longevity impact by this change?
Michael, I can answer that. The answer is no. It's all buried stuff that gets encapsulated in the building.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else on this one?
I move this item go forward without objection.
Need a second?
Second.
Go ahead, Jim, poll us, please.
Mr. Berger?
Yes.
Mr. Cheshire?
Yes.
Mr. Doctor?
Yes.
Ms. Farris?
Yes.
Ms. Gaines?
Yes.
Mr. Gelfand?
Yes.
Mr. Guida?
Aye, yes.
Mr. Lassiter?
Yep.
Mr. McCoy?
Yes.
Mr. Porter?
Yes.
Mr. Shannon?
Yes.
Motion passes 11-0.
Okay, any other items pulled?
With that,
Do we want to go on to Jim's new business? Mr. Porter, would that be okay if we go to Jim's new business?
Are there any other pulled items or we're done the consent?
No, we're done with that.
Okay, then move forward.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the one I added for the policy, and I wanted to bring to you guys something that happened to us while we were in the process of approving the contingency use policy. It was reviewed by Mr. Sanchez, and he found a scrivener's error that I need to report to you. So in the definition of architect's contingency use authorization, the ACUA, the words design errors and omissions was inadvertently allowed to be in that paragraph, which would have allowed the staff to issue an ACUA for the purpose of design errors and omissions. That was not our intent. And so those words have been stricken. That's no longer an acceptable use of an ACUA in the policy going forward. Apologize for the scrivener's error, but we wanted to be straight up with that.
And the premise behind it was it matched the CCUA language, and we just failed to catch that was, we shouldn't be paying for additional services for a design error. They made the mistake, they fix it at their cost, and that's why we're striking that piece.
Are there any questions or comments about that? No. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your allowing me to do that.
And I want to let everybody know that you'll notice that we do not have an update this month. I know you guys really like seeing my long-winded discussions about all the different construction activities we've done. I will say we have done a lot of work this past month. We had the Thanksgiving break, and we did get a lot of work done. As a matter of fact, if you guys are interested, there is a video online on the district where all of our work was videoed by the television network, our school district network, and it shows a lot of the activities that went on during the Thanksgiving break. We did get a bunch of work done then, but because it is a short month, we don't have any formalized presentation to let you all see. We will again get back to it in January, and I expect you will see lots of photos from all the work that we're doing at Christmas time as well, from the winter break.
So we should expect to get out of here too in January?
Right, January is going to be a 2-hour meeting because you know how I talk, right? So.
You know the date of January?
Susan, do you know what our January date is?
Yeah.
The new schedule is on the table. It's the second Thursday in January.
January 13th.
13th.
Susan, would you please email that schedule to us?
Yes, ma'am. It's also attached to the agenda today. For
Okay.
you guys, I was hoping you would have a chance to review it and let me know if you wanted me to send out the notices.
We'll send it out to you. Thank you.
So, may I request an excused absence for that meeting?
Yes, of course. Mr. Porter?
I'll be in the legislative session, so if you need something, you might as well send me with a list.
Our condolences.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Porter, are you talking? You're muted.
Your mic is muted, sir.
Yeah, tragic. Why can't you join us by Google Meet from the floor of the assembly? What's wrong with that?
Entertainment.
No imagination.
Since you mentioned the legislative agenda, I'm curious about the suggestion going forward. I think it's a joint resolution to make school boards partisan rather than nonpartisan elections. Does the district have a position on that?
I apologize, but I can't speak to that.
Yeah, it's not really CORC purview.
Well,
the district's against it, just so you know. This is Joe. We're against
Joe, what's the answer, Joe?
it. The district is against it. The individual board members are against it, but I don't think the board as a collective has voted for it.
I appreciate that because it's been reported that our lobbyist has signed on to it.
Well, there's an interesting article in the Palm Beach Post about some of the school board members' opinion on the partisan districts, school board districts. Michael has a question.
Yes, Mr. Gelfand.
As the one person here who's been involved in those partisan politics and came this close to a runoff point, I got to tell you something, that putting partisan labels on something that should be clearly focused on education, which is not a partisan or should not be a partisan issue, is an awfully bad idea.
So whoever's going up there, I don't know if you can speak personally to that. I missed who was going up.
It's Mr. McCoy, but it's not really CORC's.
I know, that's why I'm saying personally, not as CORC.
Yeah, I'm going to be up there also for the session, and I don't know if I'll be dealing with those folks, but also recognizing who's controlling the majority on the agenda in the legislature. It's not necessarily our representatives.
So can I ask a question? Who's the school board's lobbyist? Is that LaFace?
Yeah, Ron LaFace.
And I'm sorry, did I hear Virginia say he made he took the position that he was in support of it?
Virginia?
My organization said that he was one of the school lobbyists who signed on to this joint resolution. And I've been trying to track that down because I don't know who the new school lobbyist is.
I'd like to end this discussion. I know you guys are passionate about it, but really it's not CORC's purview.
No.
So if you want to talk privately with Tradrick, I think that's fine. But I'd like to move our meeting along for CORC stuff so we can get this done.
Well, sure, I appreciate that. Can you just tell me who the school lobbyist is?
Yeah.
Yeah, Capital Cities Consulting is our school district's lobbyist.
Well, somebody better check with them to see if that's true.
I'll take that on, Virginia. This is Joe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, I think we're down to approval of minutes. Anyone with issues on minutes?
Yes, it's Virginia. I believe in the attendance, it has Tom Berger attending virtually, and then it has Tom Berger excused absence.
Both of them
I
sound
already
reasonable.
got that one, Virginia.
Okay, what wasn't on the one I looked at? And who had excused absences today? We didn't mention that in the attendance.
Mr. Simon is not here.
Mr. Simon and Mr. Hugo.
Thank you.
Michael, you had your hand raised.
Yes, I have a motion to amend the minutes. And if I may share, I'll provide it. It's dealing with FC6. I actually went back and listened to the video last night. And if I may, let me just post up what the changes.
Yes, Mr. Gelfand, we've given copies around to everybody in the room, and right now it should be on your screen. Hopefully there, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I would make a motion to amend to add these items to it. I've tried to be somewhat judicious, and I've not gone through and named out the professional and used some of the stronger
I need to turn the meeting over to you to end it because I need to run.
Okay, I'll take over, David. Thank you. Enjoy the day.
It's beautiful out there. Enjoy it.
Did you catch that?
Happy holidays. Happy holidays, David.
Okay, thank you. See you guys later.
Okay.
Be good. So I'll make this motion to amend, please.
I'm still reading it since didn't get a paper copy. Are you satisfied with the addition, Michael? Have you read it?
Yes, I actually drafted it and sent it around.
Oh, okay.
Second.
Any other comments on the minutes? Hearing none, they'll be approved as corrected.
There was no second?
There was no second.
No, I seconded
We
it.
really don't need a motion.
Do unanimous consent on that? Okay.
Right, with
Okay.
unanimous consent. Anything else to bring up for the next meeting?
I don't think we have anything. We'll have Mr. Dolan's facilities information in January. Otherwise, the agenda is not set.
Do you want to do anything on the Sally Port?
I think it may be a little bit too early.
Yeah.
Correct.
With them. May take a little bit of time.
I would agree with Mr. Gelfand, but it's not that, not for lack of pushing it uphill to get feedback.
It sounded to me like any place there's gonna be one of these added has already been done. When I ask about the 10,
Right, to my knowledge, and again, we on the construction side don't make those determinations. We rely on school police to tell us where is the most appropriate, and they've given us the 10. And your question was, did we run out of money? No, we did not. So if there are others that need to be done, it's not for lack of funding. So
okay, well,
we
we
take.
would have asked for them if needed.
Okay, Susan has her
hand up.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to remind the CORC committee members that in January, we will be doing the elections. That'll be on your agenda.
That's right.
So leave your signs 500 feet from the front door.
Are these partisan?
Think we're done, Virginia?
Are there any other items to bring up?
Are the elections going to be partisan?
Let's hope not.
If we don't have bagels and coffee here and snacks, then there might be partisanship going on, so.
Hearing no further business, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy New Year.
Best wishes, James.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Healthy and a safe one. Take care, folks.
See you
Happy
next
holidays,
year.
everyone. Take care.
See you next year.
Need to stop, Sam.
Over a couple meetings, I sort of picked up.
Capital improvements.